when I was told to come and speak here, that is one message that I looked at and said, look, the reason why I'm here is because I know some of you are going to be great people. Most of you are going to be great people. You're going to be the changes, or the change angels that this country requires. So, I ask you today, what is your story? What will it be your story 20 years from now or 40 years from today? Recently, or last week, my friend died of cancer. We went to the same high school in Strathmore School. And when I went to his funeral this week, he was just 40. I'm 41 this year. When I thought about when I went to church and I looked at his life, I figured out this guy, this gentleman who has died, I've known him for the last 20, 25 years. What is his story for the last 20 years? If I had a chance to rethink my story for the last 20 years, if I know what I know today, if I was told to live my life backwards, how would I have lived my life? And today I'm going to share with you what I think are some of the things you need to look at, because I've done the journey. I'm 40 today. I'd like to ask somebody who's my mentor at 70, how can I live my next 30 years? So what can I share with you such that your next 20 years are much happier and very successful? As for the story, I started my business 16 years ago when I was 24, 25 years. That is a company called 7 Seas Technologies. Today we have 150, 160 people. We have 3 billion plus revenue. We have business that is across Africa. But it's been a business that has been shared through hard work, commitment, and sometimes tears and cheers. Sometimes as I say tears is tears. You cry sometimes and say, what the heck? What happened here, right? Just like that video I showed you earlier, people believe I was a lone nut, a guy dancing to his own crazy tune in his mind, oblivious to the risks and the mindsets most of us were accustomed to. That was until I started to persuade my first set of followers to come and join me. I was visible. I inspired them, I believed in them, and I embraced my followers as equals with a message we can make a difference. The mindset that helped me build a business that is now operational across Africa has recently partnered with Global Fortune 500 companies as part of a nationwide major transformation project to upgrade hospitals and transform Kenya public healthcare. This project we're doing is going to transform the way we deliver healthcare across 100 hospitals. It's one of the key projects that the president is very proud about, that is going to transform the way we look at healthcare. I think healthcare for a very long time has been neglected. Most of you have come from the 47 counties. Today, each of the 47 countries will have 2 hospitals that are world class. It's because of commitment, a commitment of government and also commitment to team up with private sector. The passion that we also have saw us help design, create, and execute the award-winning Huduma centers, one-stop shop self-service. Most of you have used it. How many of you have used Huduma centers? How many of you have used Huduma centers? So I'm sure soon you're going to be 18 years. The first place you're going to get an ID is a Huduma center. I can tell you one thing. When I was your age and I was turning 18, trying to get my ID, I had to go look for my chief. I had to look for somebody to rubber stamp. I had to look for my priest. I had to undergo so much process to get an ID. Today you can go to one Huduma center and get the service. That is again understanding what the country needs and solving problems, and then using technology to transform and change issues. But anyway, I expected my fair share of tough days, okay? And and also as you pursue your dreams, you're going to have challenges that confront you. But when you need to fall back on but what happens in those tough moments, you need to fall back on your true virtues. So the question to you today, what are your 3 strongest virtues? If today God was to come down and tell you, God, Allah, or whoever you believe in spiritually comes and tells you, look, I'm going to take away all your virtues. I'm going to leave you with only 3. I need you to choose the 3 strongest virtues. What would those 3 virtues be? Who would like to make an effort? Anyone who is brave enough? Who is willing to dance in front of the crowd and be followed? Who is brave enough to try and get the 3 strong virtues? Anybody willing to?
Use the mics where they are. Shoot to the mic.
Anybody willing to tell me what the 3 strong virtues are? Drop everything else. You're told, I'm going to leave you 3 strong virtues. What would those 5 virtues be?
For me, I'll choose integrity, hard work, and honesty.
Integrity and honesty, are they the same one and the same thing? So you need to choose one more. So integrity, hard work.
Diligence.
Diligence, that's good. That's good. Important question I ask people. when they come for interviews in my organization, how have those 3 virtues made who you are? How have they shaped your life to date? The next question I asked them, if you crashed in Mount Everest and you're left with fellow passengers, some of them who are dead, how do those 3 virtues assist you survive to see the next day? And lastly, how have those 3 virtues assisted you, how are those 3 virtues going to assist you in the future to come? And I'll tell you my 3 virtues, which I think sharing with you. For me, the first virtue I look at is passion. And I'll tell you how these virtues help me build a business and also be where I am today. I'm extremely passionate. I think sometimes when we have got headwinds and you've got challenges, passion really works for you. Sometimes even the followers who follow you have to follow passion, because sometimes the only thing that works for you is passion. Sometimes when things are looking bleak, passion works for you. So sometimes when people you interact with, sometimes they need to see passion. You may have excellent credentials, you may have excellent degrees, but one thing for sure, if you don't have the passion to drive it, you may not even get that job. The next quality and virtue I look at, for me, in my mind, what has helped me shape me is clarity of thought. I did not say intelligence. I never said wisdom. I don't think I'm wise yet. I need to become wise later, I think, as I grow older now in the next 10 years. But I talked about clarity of thought. Sometimes what tends to happen, you've got lots of noise around us. Social media, lots of opportunities, lots of your friends telling you what to do. For me, I think one of the most critical things was having clarity of where to go in terms of journey. And when you have a lot of noise around you, how do you make sure what is noise and how do you define the path? And the last one was persistence. Persistence has also been one of the main virtues that I've looked at in my life. Persistence, sometimes things are very, very tough, extremely tough. Or sometimes you're not sure that it's the right direction. But persistence, you keep pushing it. You keep pushing it. Eventually you break through. Now, for me, those are 3. Every time things are very tough, I think I default to those default settings. You know, it's called default settings. When things are very tough, you have to do a default set. For me, I think those 3 qualities, when things are extremely difficult, I always default to them, and they really work for me. So you need to figure out what are the 3 virtues that make you. Those virtues, I can tell you, have been at the tipping point of everything I've done in my life. Whether it is going for a very big, risky project, whether it's convincing a customer who does not believe I can pull it through, because you're a young company. People ask you, who are you now? Okay? Now you have to convince them. But sometimes some of the customers that have come through for us and given us and supported us in very, very major transactions have been customers who believed in our passion. They said, if only I could have employees in my organization who are as passionate as you, then I'm going to give you the project, because I think you're committed to do it. And I would like people who are passionate like you to be in our business. So I think those 3 virtues are very critical. And I think those virtues help you a lot when things are tough in terms of failure. So as an entrepreneur, I'm driven by the mantra to solve problems, and in doing so, transform lives and change communities. Again, the challenge is, why do you start a business? Is it for lifestyle? Is it for legacy? Is it to sell the business? Or is it to build something bigger than yourself? For us, I've chosen, when I maybe started the business, it was for legacy. Today, I look at my business beyond legacy and say, I need to be able to know and stand in front of you and say, I'm going to transform lives and change communities. And I want 7Cs to become a business that makes a difference in society. I want to be a change maker, not in Kenya alone, but in emerging markets. Looking at problems in emerging markets and in Kenya and seeing how those problems can be able to be solved at a global market. Today, every day I go to bed, I think, that what I'm working on, can it be a global solution to an emerging market issue? I just came from China. I look at those markets. I ask myself, okay, I went to see this successful entrepreneur. He's built 2 $1 billion businesses. Those are big businesses. I don't think in Kenya we have many $1 billion businesses. He's a young guy. He's 46 years old. And I looked at him and I figured out, this guy has figured out how to build business around the aged. In China, you've got lots of people who are aging. But I thought to myself, in Africa, we don't have an aging population. We have a young population. So I can't start replicating solutions from China and bring them to Africa. What I need to think about is, how can I start creating solutions for the youth in healthcare? What are the healthcare problems that youth in Kenya are facing or in Africa are facing? And try and use Kenya as a platform for development and scale across emerging markets. So that's how you need to start thinking. You have to start thinking that the world is becoming flat. How do you start building solutions that become global? So one of the things to do that is stepping out of your comfort zone, challenging yourself. growing a business from an IT company that dealt with hardware and software to a business that now solves Kenyan and African problems in healthcare, security, and social services. I've learned the lessons of that projects that did not work. I got into projects, I was too passionate. Again, the virtues I talked to you about can also be your negative side. It's like a double-edged sword. You're too passionate, sometimes you don't see that what you're pursuing may not work. But it's okay. You fail and you learn. One interpretation is to look at things that don't work as failure, a fear that drives many Africans, shunning those who have tried to be different. Whether in business, education, sports, the crazy ones, as Steve Jobs says, are the ones who make it. And I love something he says. Here is to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, troublemakers, the ones who see things differently. They are not fond of rules. They have no respect for the status quo. The only thing you can do is ignore them. Because those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Whether you look at the story of Equity Bank, it's a crazy story, think about it. It's a crazy person, and I'm sure that they don't go and tell James I said he's crazy. I think he's crazy in a good way, that he thought I could change the issue of microbanking, I could change the issue of banking in this society. When banks refused to think about banking segments, he said, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Today, look at the bank. It has grown to an extent that it's been able to offer you the kind of scholarships it does. And to me, that is what I call collective prosperity. Is why you say individual success cannot be individual, has to be collective across the ecosystem. Steve Jobs himself went ahead to be fired from his own company, Apple, and was later to rejoin at his own pace, making that company one of the greatest in the world, both in design, customer experience, and products, disrupting industries in music, in phone, in applications, industry worldwide. Think about somebody who, sitting there in the world, was able to transform and change a whole world today. His company is bigger than many governments. He's transformed the way we buy music. We would buy diskettes, CDs. Today, that has changed. It's because he's looked at life differently and said, I'm going to change the world. But trust me, he failed also. You fail, and sometimes you also fail in your personal life. And sometimes as you pursue business, you also need to make sure your personal life does not fall apart. That's also something I'll tell you one day, how to balance your personal life and your business life. And I also want to tell you a story about a failure that will give you goosebumps, I'm sure. It's a story of a man who, when the fast food giant KFC went looking for staff in his city, became the only reject out of 24 candidates. So think about KFC going to China. This guy was rejected by KFC that he could not even be a candidate. He failed college entrance exams on 3 occasions before he was ejected from his university. He was then knocked back from a further 30 companies. This man, I'm not sure if you know him, is a guy called Jack Ma. Jack Ma is a Chinese who has built an internet company, okay, that is called Alibaba, that recently went public in the stock market in the US, and today is one of the largest online retail companies, the largest valuation. I may be honored to meet him in the next month, and I think he may be a very big impact in my life. Just like Ma, the global landscape is changing, and we can all access information at a touch of a button. So think about technology. Think about the internet. Think about online. What can we do? Look at the supply chain systems in Kenya, poor. Think about e-commerce. You today are in a great position to be able to be what you want to be, because information is available. You have access to the internet. You have access to networks. You have access to very many ecosystems. So you have a great advantage over generations that came before you. When I came to this business, internet was a luxury. Today, internet is something you have. Research information is available today. Today, you cannot say you do not have information. Information is available. So I urge you to seize it. The world is at your fingertips. Dare to dream, but do something about it. The issue is not dreaming. You can dream as much as you want, but the challenge is doing something about it. The Wings to Fly strapline, transforming Africa through education, scholarships, and leadership mentoring, reminds me of a mentor. My late mentor called by the name the late James Gashui. You see, I was lucky. I was lucky to have a mentor. You know, when you start a business at 25, there are very many things that go through your mind. But sometimes what you need is a mentor. I urge all of you to have a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, look for one. A mentor, what they do, they validate your thoughts. They don't tell you what to do, but they validate your thoughts. And sometimes you don't like our mentors. When you count your 10 friends, most of you will find that out of your top 10 friends, your mentors are not there. That is generally what tends to happen. But those are the mentors that come to your funeral and cry on your behalf and say, he had great dreams, right? But you need to understand that mentors are people you need. Mentors across the value chain. Your parents are the first step of mentors. You move on as you go ahead, and you get other mentors. You don't have to go out clubbing with your mentors. You don't have to love your mentors, but you have to be able to respect that your mentors tell you things as they are. I was lucky to have a mentor who believed in me, invested in me, both emotionally and financially. Not everybody gets that. And some of us don't realize that those mentors sometimes are people around you, and you need to seek them out. At the same time, not everyone understands that you have to make sacrifices in the beginning. Whether it is rejecting the opportunity to go out for another night with friends or saving money, those opportunities, there has to be sacrifice. Sacrifice of gratification that you say, I'm going to live for later. We need to learn to look at the future and say, we are investing in the future, right? We need to be able to say that let's not take everything now. Let's be able to invest it in the future. So I encourage everyone in this room to find a mentor, learn from them, value them and their time. The path you want to traverse has often been traveled before. Many people are going to travel the path. Maybe yours is different, maybe your neighbors, but all of you are going to be, at some point, pass through a path. But all of you at some point are going to differentiate each other. You're going to differentiate yourselves. You're not going to be the same. Today you are the same in this room. Some of you may be presidents, some of you may be cabinet secretaries, some of you may be UN or global people, great entrepreneurs, but there's a path you have to follow. And that path you have to follow by yourself. So seek out those who have achieved and continue to reap success. Because success, we have a new success in the new Kenya who is because of you and me. You are going to be the people who transform this country. And to cite President Barack Obama's speech last year at Kasarani, he says, there's a proverb that says, we have not inherited this land from our forebearers. We have borrowed it from our children. When he did his speech, that is the only it's the only paragraph that really resonated with me. We have not inherited this land from our forebearers. We have borrowed it from our children. Because I thought to myself, why am I here? Am I here because of me, or am I here because my parents gave me an opportunity and left me a platform? And what will happen to my children and to my children's children? So today, whatever I do is going to be a great impact to you. I can give you an example. If tomorrow I have a big scandal, and I'm an entrepreneur. Some of you, when you start your businesses, they're going to reference, oh, your company may be like Mike's company. So understand that what I do today has a very big significance to you and how people reference you in the future. Because people, ultimately, when we go out there and we misbehave and embarrass the country, when you go out there and say that's a Kenyan, we don't realize that eventually the Kenyan brand you hold is what is going to carry you out there. Even if you're how talented, they say that's a Kenyan. Because Kenyan brand needs to mean something. Our Kenyan brand is defined by you. So in other words, okay, we study the past so that it can guide us in the future and inspire us to do better. So you have to do better, please. You have to do better than us. You have no choice but do better than ourselves. So for me, Kenya is at a crossroads. In a world that we borrowed from our children, you are the future of this country, this Kenya, so you should never forget that. So I want to leave you today with some questions I believe all of us need to answer at some point in our lives. When nobody's looking, who are you? Again, it's the issue of value system. We need to understand our value system individual. We should not celebrate when we see somebody in the newspaper that this guy stole 800 million, he's driving a Range Rover, and we're happy about it. That's no value system. We need to have a value system as a country. And today I think that one of the challenges we've been facing is create a national value system, which I guess is not something we put on paper and hope to achieve one day. Our value system lies with you right now here. When I see students going to the road and throwing stones at their future employers, I ask myself, really, what do these guys think? What's happening? You're going to kill your future employer. When you go look for a job, the guy will be dead because you'll have killed him on the road, right? So you need to think about what is your value system. Should you look at acting as a crowd? Again, so you need to identify your true north. That is the internal compass that will keep you and help you become a true leader. Because some of you are going to be leaders, but at a very young age, you need to identify your true north. And I can tell you what I'm saying in 20 years from now. If I knew what I know today, is identifying my true north at a very early stage. Because there are many things I would have done differently if I really had known my true north then. Because if you can answer that question truthfully, then you've won half the battle. Just like one scholar said on these steps last year, there are stories of glory around this room today. You can dare to dream. And I dare all of you in this room today, be the change you wish to be in the world. To quote the spiritual and political leader Mahatma Gandhi, And with that, I think I finished my conversation. Before I want to show you one last video, which from there I can take questions, and I'm happy to take as many questions as possible. But I think what I've read to you, I'm going to make it available on our blog, and you can be able to download it at your free time. But at the same time, I want to share with you a video which I think, again, also inspired me. It's a video of India 10 or 15 years ago. When you went to buy a Jaguar, I don't know how many people know a Jaguar, the car Jaguar, right? Jaguar is a car that was owned by the British, right? Today it's owned by the Indians. The Range Rover today is owned by the Indians. So what have the Indians done in the last decade or so, or even more, to be able to transform their country to be a totally different ball game? Because I think India is also at the crossroads. And I also feel Kenya is at the crossroads. And the people who are going to benefit from what happens moving forward are going to be the people like yourselves. In the next 10 years, I think we'll have crossed that path. And we need to figure out what will that path be. And you're going to be the people who are going to make that path be. Because you're going to be 30 years in 10 years, 20 years is going to be 40 years. In 40 years, in 20 years from now, the highways will be up, the rail will be up, cross-national trade will be up, Africa will be more united. So what's going to happen? Who's going to make that difference? I would love to be you in 20 years, but I think I'm going to be 60. We're going to be together. So let's play this video, and then I can take some questions. Thank you.
This is the story of the Times of India, the world's biggest English language newspaper, starting a mass movement for political and social change in the world's largest democracy. The idea was to light a fire that we fanned and fueled over the next several months through press, internet, and television advertising, coupled with all manner of public demonstrations, television content programming, news coverage, speech making, and voting. It was a call for a new generation of leadership in a country of 1 billion people. It all began with us writing the front page of the Times of India on the 1st of January 2007 to mark the dawn of India's 60th year of independence. Before it went to print, the ad was shown to Amitabh Bachchan, legendary film icon and perhaps the most famous Indian alive, who was inspired enough to read it out on national television that day.
I read the piece and I felt that it was very inspirational, very uplifting for the country. There are two Indias in this country. One India is training at the leash, eager to spring forth and live up to all the adjectives that the world has been recently showering upon us. The other India is the leash. One India says, give me a chance and I'll prove myself. The other India says, prove yourself first and maybe then you'll have a chance. One India lives in the optimism of our hearts. The other India lurks in the skepticism of our minds. One India wants. The other India hopes. One India leads. The other India follows. And quietly, while the world is not looking, a pulsating, dynamic new India is emerging. An India that no longer boycotts foreign-made goods, but buys out the companies that make them instead. History, they say, is a bad motorist. It rarely ever signals its intentions when it's taking a turn. This is that rarely ever moment. History is turning a page. For over half a century, our nation has sprung, stumbled, run, fallen, rolled over, got up and dusted herself, and cantered, sometimes lurched on. But now, in our 60th year as free nation, the ride has brought us to the edge of time's great precipice. And one India, a tiny little voice in the back of the head, is looking down at the bottom of the ravine and hesitating. The other India is looking up at the sky and saying, it's time to fly.
Almost overnight, this single ad was downloaded millions of times, triggering off a massive public debate that spilled out onto the streets and in mainstream media, gathering momentum and arousing opinions along the way. So overwhelming was the feedback that we simply had to harness the simmering undercurrent into a nationwide call for action. It was time to launch the next phase of the Times of India campaign and empower normal citizens to stop talking about issues and start doing something about them instead.
Politicians are not the only agency through which we can want change. All citizens in a democracy become active participants, not passive recipients of what the politicians do.
Lead India was a clarion call for the next generation of political leaders to pick up the reins of the world's largest democracy. And to launch it, we wrote the front page of the Times of India once again. But this time, the box office mogul of the Indian film industry, Shah Rukh Khan, stepped up to the cause on India's Independence Day.
How are we going to turn a land of philosophers into a nation of doers? Are we going to keep thinking about what we should be doing or do something about what we are thinking? Are we going to simply shrug our shoulders and blame our infrastructure, our bureaucracy and our political system? Or are we going to roll up our sleeves, get up and actually do something about it?
Over the next few months, the Lead India movement cascaded through the country with over 100 print ads, web registrations, outdoor and a television campaign that saw industrialists, politicians, beauty queens and poets taking the stage. More than 34,000 citizens stepped forward as future political leaders. They were filtered down to 24 and then finally to 8 through a rigorous session of interviews, debates, group discussions and eventually public voting through SMS.
Doesn't matter who becomes a leader, any one of you, but if you make a difference to them, that matters.
Finally, on the 2nd of October, the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, these 8 courageous Indians got ready to face the nation on a primetime reality show on national television. Star TV, the country's largest television network, now joined the Times of India and the Lead India movement. In the next 10 weeks, these 8 would fan out across the countryside tackling citizen issues, facing the toughest grilling sessions from accomplished names in public life and garnering support for the cause they believed in. The Times of India had placed 8 potential new leaders on the national stage. Soon the race to the finish began hotting up, and Indians across the country went to vote via SMS for a winner who would receive $100,000 to fund any public project, win a scholarship to the Kennedy School of Political Leadership, and a platform to contest the next general elections. Finally, on the 9th of February 2008, Mr. R.K. Mishra was crowned by the Times of India as the winner of the Lead India campaign. The honors were done by none other than the former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam.
I believe Lead India movement is the best movement I have come across.
And so, a campaign that started as one single ad for a newspaper ended up championing the cause for change and fresh leadership in a democracy that's 4 times the size of the USA. Today, all 8 candidates have taken the stage in public life, and the Times of India may have well helped unearth the country's next Prime Minister.
So, I think when I look at Lead India campaign and I look at Wings to Fly, I see a great connection. The initiative Wings to Fly may be the fire that lights the movement that we want in this country, in terms of the youth, in terms of collective prosperity, and who knows, 20 years from now, you may be the next big thing. So I guess the Indians have done it through a Lead India campaign and through the Times. The company like Equity called Times of India may started it. Today, maybe Equity has lit the fire. And all of you should be proud and happy that tomorrow you could be the change that you want to be. So sometimes in life, you don't just have to borrow from what others have done and do it well. But I want to do this, I want to summarize my conversation today, I think, to help you with perspective. The first thing I've said, you need to be true to self. In this noisy world we have today, how do you stay on course? You've got noisy, social media, everything is noisy. How do you remain true to self? Valuing your mentors and the people who sacrifice at the beginning and have faith in you and your capabilities are critical. You need to identify